Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Heim Time. This is Emma.
Travis.
And we're here again.
We're here in the relaxed studio.
Yeah, dude, I like this one.
For the second time. It was good. We were showing a little skin. I kind of had a shot of my thigh.
Nuts and balls or
my
something?
inner thigh that I don't know if that was PG-13 or not.
It's fine.
We'll tell Paul to edit
Weird. We got
out.
a couple more patrons after that episode.
Whatever works.
You guys.
Whatever works. We've talked about OnlyFans before, so who knows? Maybe this is a middle ground, you could say.
Speaking of patrons.
Patreon.com/HeimTime podcast. Kind of blowing up. We put the last episode we said was only on Patreon.
Okay.
And that was a fun one.
And everyone
where
probably
we talked
felt
about
really bad for us.
Texas Monthly, which I'm sure we'll get into today. But
for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a bunch of people join, and I will say their names right now. Ed Smiley. Ed joined before. But then I forgot to do Patreon shout-outs the last time. So shout out Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
A nice message on Patreon. He's like a barbecue lover. And we were kind of talking about history of barbecue. Super nice guy. Chelsea Machuca.
Hey.
You know Chelsea. She is our Benny Keith rep and has been for...
since we opened Magnolia.
A long time.
Like a month into Mags, I think. If even that. Might have been when we opened.
Chelsea's great. Renee, don't know anything about him. There's a bartender at Joe T's named Renee. I doubt it's the same one.
Rennie?
But he's super nice. One of my favorite people in the world. But shout out Renee.
Makes a mean marg.
Evan Leroy. Evan Leroy, chef, owner of Leroy and Lewis.
Number 4?
I don't know.
I think in the top 10. Way to go.
That's probably low, too, for where they actually should be.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of really cool stuff. New school barbecue, I think. I'm sure I've mentioned him before, but he's a good guy and even better barbecue cook. Wesley Coleman to round out our new Patreons.
Wesley
is unfortunately a Saints fan, but we won't hold that against him. He is also the
LSU.
Is he an LSU fan?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. He is our director of operations for Heim Barbecue and does a great job. So shout out to Wesley.
He's our number 30th follower.
Our 30th official. Yeah, we had one person drop out. I guess they were tired of Texas Monthly Talk or something. So, but anyway,
$5
up to 30.
is just too much.
We were talking about that. It's like all of the dumb subscriptions that you have, and then you look up and you're like, oh, I'm spending $500 a month on
joke.
Ridiculous.
Well, keep spending $5 on us a month and join.
Yeah.
I guess we should do more just on Patreon sometimes.
We might only do this on Patreon. I don't know. I don't know if, I mean, it is what it is. I feel like we got pretty real in the last one, and everyone seemed to really like that. And, maybe we'll just continue on that theme in the future. And people like it on iTunes and stuff. But anyway, this is too long. Shout out all the Patreons. If you want to support this podcast directly, patreon.com/HeimTime podcast. All the iTunes, Spotify, all the other stuff too, I guess.
And then on Instagram is just Heim Time Podcast. Thanks, guys.
And Twitter that I never tweet on, but
Heim Barbecue.
Anyway, let's get into that.
Let's do it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good evening from Fort Worth, Texas. It's slow here in the heat. We're down Main Street.
Hey, guys. Welcome to another episode of Heim Time. This is Emma.
Travis.
And we're here again.
We're here in the relaxed studio.
Yeah, dude. I like this one.
For the second time. It was good. We were showing a little skin. I kind of had a shot of my my thigh,
Nuts and balls or
my
something?
inner thigh that I don't know if that was PG-13 or not.
It's fine.
But,
It's fine.
we'll tell Paul to
It's
edit
weird. We
it
got
out.
a couple more patrons after
Hey,
that episode.
whatever works.
You guys.
Whatever works. We've talked about OnlyFans before, so who knows? Maybe this is a middle ground, you could say.
Speaking of patrons.
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 Patreon.com/HeimTime podcast. Kind of blowing up. We put the last episode we said was only on Patreon.
Okay.
And that was a fun one.
And everyone
where
probably
we talked
felt
about
really bad for us.
Texas Monthly, which I'm sure we'll get into today. But
For sure.
yeah. So anyway, we had a bunch of people join, and I will say their names right now. Ed Smiley. Ed joined before, but then I forgot to do Patreon shout outs the last time. So
Okay.
shout out Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
A nice message on Patreon. He's like a barbecue lover. And we were kind of talking about history of barbecue. Super nice guy. Chelsea Machuca.
Hey.
You know Chelsea. She is our Benny Keith rep and has been for
Since we opened Magnolia.
a long time.
Like a month into Mags, I think.
Um,
If even that. Might have been when we opened.
Chelsea's great. Renee, don't know anything about him. There's a bartender at Joe T's named Renee. I doubt it's the same one.
Rennie?
But he's super nice. One of my
Hey, Rennie.
favorite people in the world. But shout out Renee.
Make some mean marg.
Evan Leroy. Evan Leroy, he's, chef, owner of Leroy and Lewis.
Number 4?
I don't know.
I think in the top 10. Way to
That's
go.
probably low too for where they actually should be.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of really cool stuff. New school barbecue, I think. I'm sure I've mentioned him before, but he's a good guy and even better barbecue cook. Wesley Coleman to round out our new Patreons.
Wesley
is unfortunately a Saints fan, but we won't hold that against him. He is also the
LSU.
Is he an LSU fan?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. He is our director of operations for
Yeah.
Heim Barbecue and does a great job. So shout out to Wesley.
He's our number 30th follower.
Our 30th official. Yeah, we had one person drop out. I guess they were tired of Texas Monthly Talk or something. So, but anyway, up
$5
to
is
30.
just too much.
We were talking about that. It's like all of the dumb subscriptions that you have, and then you look up and you're like, oh, I'm spending $500 a
Yeah,
month
no
on
joke.
ridiculous.
Well, keep spending
bull crap.
$5 on us a month and join.
Yeah.
I guess we should do more just on Patreon sometimes.
We might only do this on Patreon. I don't know. I don't know if I mean, it is what it is. I feel like we got pretty real in the last one, and everyone seemed to really like that. And maybe we'll just continue on that theme in the future. And people like it on iTunes and stuff. But anyway, this is too long. Shout out all the Patreons. If you want to support this podcast directly, patreon.com/HeimTime podcast. All the iTunes, Spotify, all the other stuff too, I guess.
And then
but-
on Instagram is just Heim Time Podcast. Thanks, guys.
And Twitter that I never tweet on. But
Heim Barbecue.
anyway, let's get into the
Let's
episode.
do it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good morning. It's Heim time.
It could also be the afternoon whenever you're listening to this.
Good afternoon.
Or in the middle of the night. Thank you for listening regardless.
Middle of the night. It's
Welcome
Heim
back.
time. Welcome back.
Hey, Trav.
Hey,
How are you?
how are you doing?
Good.
Anything important happened this week? I haven't really been on social media much.
Dude, there has been some stuff.
Yeah.
And just one little side note about me this week, I deactivated my Facebook.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take that, Zuckerberg.
And, but if someone does message Heim Facebook, you're not getting a response.
No.
So
Maybe never again.
maybe it feels really good. It's been it'll be 48 hours this evening.
That's
So.
awesome. Allegedly, Facebook is changing their name. Have you heard that?
No.
So apparently they're going to change it up to something.
To Bookface.
My face. I think that's what my dad used to call it, my face. Yeah, I took a nice little what would you call
Sabbatical?
it? Yeah, sabbatical.
Siesta.
From from social media. From about 8:02 a.m. Monday on Twitter and Instagram. I deleted Facebook, Bookface off of my phone months ago.
Yeah,
and
you
that
did.
was one of the best things I've ever done for my mental health. But I still will check it because people will message me and tag me and things, and then they get upset when I don't respond. Like a lot of people, I think, just use Facebook
deactivate it.
every day. Yeah, I may do that, but then it's like, whatever. There's like people that want to message. It's usually nothing important, but
Or a donation request.
yeah, we'll get those. Yeah, Twitter I got off of, and then I got back on yesterday because I was like thinking like, well, I'll just take a break. And Instagram too was the same way. And then it was like, whatever. And then like, what do? You just like sit on your hands the rest of the
You raise
rest
a
of the
child and run a business.
Yeah, well,
Watch Netflix.
yeah, so the proverbial elephant in the room is that the Texas Monthly Top 50 list came out Monday
It did.
at 8 a.m. And if you heard our last podcast on Patreon exclusive podcast that we put, patreon.com/Heimtime Podcast, I felt like that was maybe one of our better episodes where we were pretty open
Pretty raw.
and raw and vulnerable about kind of what we were thinking, and that maybe set the stage. So if you watch that episode, then you probably have some inkling of how we're feeling today. And if you don't know what that is, we talked about in the last episode. It's Texas Monthly for like a while now, since the 90s, I think at least, does a best top 50 barbecue places in Texas every 4 years. It's a big deal. It's very prestigious, blah, blah, blah. We talked more about it the last time. All of that to say, we didn't get in.
Yeah, don't look it up.
And so...
Well, it's pretty crazy.
that was a bummer.
We didn't get in.
Yeah.
Which, if you did listen to the last episode, we talked about that there was, our hearts kind of had like a gut feeling that there was a chance we weren't. Because
and
we
I want-
are
yeah.
different. We aren't a food truck open for 1 hour, 1 day a week,
Yeah.
We're completely different. I don't know if they've ever had a place with 3 joints, not to mention
On the last
more in the works.
3 list, at least, that I know of.
So
Lockhart, I guess, but they didn't get in it this year. It's
Styles and Switch, they have 2. They didn't get in. Like, it's pretty
they
crazy.
have 3 now, I think.
3.
Switch, and then the other, I think at least.
Or
3.
yeah, they were. I think they are working.
Before we get into it, and I do completely agree with you, because I can
Just trying
tell
to make
you,
myself feel better.
I know, I can tell you the moment that I knew we weren't getting in, and it is what it is. But then we got our hopes up because of
No
some
joke.
stuff that happened, and I foolishly probably felt pretty good going into Monday, and then reading the list before I went and played in a charity golf tournament was kind of like, wait, I didn't see her name on there, and
Yeah.
scrolling, and then
They
just
have a really great way of getting our hopes up. Really great way.
the sinking feeling. Yeah, and we got really screwed, I think, on that. At least like other people who didn't make the list didn't have to go through what we went through. But anyway, let's get into it. I'm disappointed, to say the least. I think I think at this point I've gone through almost every stage of grief, from
Yeah.
like sadness to anger to everything else. And that was the thing too. Like Monday, I was like, well, you know what, for good or bad, I just don't want to like be on social media and see anything, you know, that
Yeah.
people are talking about. And then yesterday, we're filming this on Wednesday. Yesterday, kind of had an epiphany, like, you know, I'm not like helping myself, you know, by not looking at this. And I shout out to everyone who texts me and who tweeted and messaged and everything. That was meant a lot to us. A lot of people that own barbecue places that got in the top 50 that text us and we're like, don't really know why you guys didn't make it, but you know, it is what it is. And they, you know, have their things that they look for and all that. So anyway, I'm disappointed because it means a lot to me. It meant a lot to me when we got into it in 2017, and then before that in the top 25. And you know, it's something that I think is a big deal, and I have a lot of respect for it, and I have a lot of respect for Daniel and all of the other people who are involved with making the list. And this was something too where I was like, I don't even know like if I want to talk about it because it's so raw. But to be clear, I think anything that I say or that we say is going to sound critical. You know what I mean? And like, I want to be very clear that I'm not. I don't want to ever even inflect anything that may seem like I'm talking bad about another place or somebody that made it or something like that. Just to be clear, because anything we say could be like, well, they're you know, upset or jealous or whatever. So I just want to be very clear with that. I'm really happy for Fort Worth. I think it's a huge deal that Panther City, top 10, Danes, Smokeaholics, Kennedale is not in Fort Worth, but Goldie's,
just if so everybody knows, Kennedale is like more Arlington.
If you throw them in as South Fort Worth, maybe. So that's crazy. And when we were on it in 2017, we were the only Fort Worth place, and that meant a lot to me as someone born and raised here, and obviously who cares about barbecue. So they've all earned it, and they're freaking awesome places and have worked really hard, especially Panther City. I still remember when they told us they were moving into our old food truck at a chili competition that we were judging.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, it's not really a great, in
That
my
they
mind,
want.
I was like, this is not a very good area, and it might be tough, but
That area's changed so much though too.
in like the last 4 years.
There's like whole like
yeah.
buildings and stuff now that weren't there.
Yeah, we were dodging homeless turds to fill up our
Turds.
water tank. That's not a joke. I don't know if I've ever told that story on the podcast, but that area's changed a lot, and so it's great. I'm really happy to see them be successful. I'm happy for Daniel, who, yeah, I mean, I don't need to say that, but I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Smokeaholics, Derek. We just met him at that podcast, but he was a super nice guy and doing some really cool stuff. Dane's the same thing. I know they've worked really hard to be where they're at. So that's cool. It's disappointing that we're not on that and a part of that, because, you know, I feel like we, you know, a lot of the responses I got were, you know, people talking about how we brought craft barbecue to Fort Worth, and I'm
Right.
very proud of that. And
I think that's what kind of stings the most.
it's just I'd love to be a part of that, you know, deal, but I think, you know, and I don't even know.
We're just different, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's like, what's that saying? Comparing apples to oranges. Like we are nowhere near that anymore.
And again, like, this is the part where I'm sensitive, because I don't want to like make it seem like we're, you know, whatever. I mean, read into it all you want, I guess. Who fucking cares at this point? But I think that we've always been on the outer edge of
Pushing.
like different.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that a lot. And even when we got Texas Monthly the last time in 2017, we were in Magnolia. We're cooking over 100 briskets every Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were even at that point, you know, 5 years ago, probably one of the highest volume places that was in the top 50 at that point. Now it's the same way. The only place that I saw that we weren't on it and didn't really read who's on it, so apologies to, you know, whoever, but Tim Hutchins was texting me before, and I texted him congrats after. They're the only place I know that like is a restaurant that's open and does. I mean, the numbers they were telling us of like briskets and stuff were insane when we saw Tracy at Red Dirt. So shout out to them, you know, as being one of the main high volume places. But it's, I guess, and I don't know how to like say this, but we've always been different. I feel like we've always kind of led the change and been open to trying new things and being creative and outside of the sort of safety net of, you know, this is
Sellouts.
barbecue and selling out and all that. When you look at our menu, I mean, bacon burn-ins and everything that, you know, there's probably a dozen places in the top 50 or more that do bacon burn-ins, that do our potato salad.
Introduces
that, you know.
the entire top 50, and it's called like the new stars of Texas barbecue. Daniel mentions bacon burn-ins as like what's where Texas barbecue is now, and kind of what we touched on in the last episode. It's like, do these things really matter?
Apparently not.
Apparently not for Heim barbecue, but he says like burrito tacos, all these different things. Bacon burn-ins was the first thing listed. It's like, well, how do you think those got on everybody's menu? You know, somebody had to think it up.
He wore a bacon burn-in shirt on Fox yesterday.
Yeah,
so,
a couple people text us that.
What a great consolation prize. But I guess that's my point, is like, I know we've always been kind of our own thing, and I've never felt more different.
I don't
than
either.
After this list.
I mean, I do too. I feel, and that's like, I know I'm not, obviously I'm trying to make myself feel better. We all need to just take our time to feel okay about this. But like, and again, not saying anything bad about any other joints, but like, I will not feel bad for having 3 restaurants and being the successful company that we are and having almost 200 employees. Like, if that contributed to why we didn't make the list, then like we would never have been considered anyway. And we talked about inclusive versus exclusive. Like, I'm not trying to turn away anybody, you know, for barbecue at any time of day, no matter where you are in the Metroplex, in all honesty, because we do have multiple. So I think that's where I'm finding a little bit of comfort. Like, it doesn't mean that we don't have good food or whatever. It just means that, like, I think that we push the limit on the joint aspect of Texas Monthly top barbecue joints.
Well, it's not the best 50 restaurants. I think, to your point, I feel the same way, but we didn't feel that way Monday. You know, I think we had talked about this, about feeling shame almost of like, you know, there's just that feeling of like, because this is important to me, and it was like, what are we doing wrong? Like, why are we not acknowledged, you know, in this thing? And you see, you know, to some extent felt kind of bad, like, you know, we do have 3 locations, and we're trying to, you know, build more and provide more opportunities for our staff and their families and everything else, and a number of other stuff. And you're like, should I be doing that? Should I just be focusing on
But
one store?
But
And
why? But that's the thing.
I
like,
know.
If we had open, okay, so we got top 25 in the food truck, and then we got 50 in 2017 while we were in our brick and mortar on Magnolia. We had one store. And another thing I've been thinking about recently is like, so in 4 years, like I guess what Texas Monthly technically, or one of the things they could be looking for is like, consistent, Magnolia is the one shop for 4 years. So then are you really okay with no growth and no like expanding for 4 years just to be considered for a list, like, and again, we obviously don't we haven't talked to Daniel. We don't know if
we're going to see him tonight.
I know we have to see him tonight.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
But you know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with you. And that's what I'm saying.
It feels like the ordinary person, and this is what is another thing that kind of hurts, and I bet hurts you. Like the ordinary people, the people on Twitter, the people that are just reading that list are seeing that Heim is not on that list, and they're like, well, Heim must suck now. And and it's like you're not cool. You can't sit at this table anymore, and it's like that's hurtful.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, this is something I thought too. It's like, it's one thing to be excluded from the club, but to be in it and then somehow
lose it.
Well, it's like we're good enough to have grown from a food truck with you and I working 1 million hours a week to a restaurant that was considered top 50 to 3 restaurants, soon to be 5 restaurants, plus a food truck, plus a full-time catering operation. So you're telling me we haven't improved since then? You know what I mean? That's the thing that bugs me, because it's like, how, if we have gotten worse since then how have we grown
so
into all this and whatever? And again, this is the part where it's
That's
just,
true. I didn't think of it like that. Well, now you're making me go backwards.
This, again, I just don't want it to seem like we're complaining, although I do want to complain a lot, but it's weird. It's a weird place to be in.
I'm not jealous of the people on the list. I'm sad that I'm not on the list. I think everyone on the list should be on the list. I probably didn't even actually read all of it because you were like, we're not on it. I was like, all right, I'm not even going to look at that.
And then got to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then stopped reading.
Well, and that's it's I'm happy for everyone, because everyone, especially after the almost 2 years that we've all had in the industry with the pandemic and everything, everyone has worked their asses off and probably didn't pay an actual home bill to buy meat or something. Some serious stuff has happened over the last 2 years. So I know everyone that's on it deserves it. It's just sad that we're not on it.
Yeah, personally.
Yeah, I don't think anybody shouldn't have made it.
And then that was no, I completely agree. And I think well, actually, I don't even know who's on it, to be honest. So
I think I did hear Wesley said that 29 of the joints are new.
That's
out
crazy.
Of 50.
I saw a tweet that said only 4 places were open before 2001. And so that's what, Louis Miller, Hutchins.
No, not Franklin.
No.
Is it Terry Black? Terry's?
No. Black's was open, but not Terry Black's. Yeah, the new stars. So, and that's weird too, just how quickly things change in the restaurant world. But we're considered the old, the Franklin and Pecan Lodge and everything, or the
Pecan
old
Lodge didn't
people.
Get it, which is, they've trailblazed Dallas barbecue.
It doesn't matter. None of that matters.
No, it doesn't matter.
And yeah, I mean, I guess that's where, if I can just vent for a while, after everything we've been through, and I don't mean we, I mean everything we as barbecue restaurants have been through the last 2 years, it's just, what a perfect time to have this list. But it's a lot of the places weren't even open through that.
I know, some of the places say open 2001.
2021?
2021, sorry.
I was
That's you know,
So I
that's
guess
crazy.
I feel my first feeling was sad, right? I was sad that we weren't included. I was sad for our 160 plus employees who, most of whom work really hard, and
Knew this was coming too.
especially the guys in the smokehouse that, we're open 7 days a week at 2 stores, 6 at the river, doing catering, everything else. And the amount of hard work and dedication that it takes to run that operation and do it almost 24/7, 7 days a week. We take Thanksgiving and Christmas off, sometimes Easter. I mean, it's almost a 363-day a year process. I felt deep sadness that
Yeah.
we couldn't celebrate that
Ugh,
with them.
I feel like I'm gonna cry.
I mean, it's maybe one of those episodes, but
It's sad.
I felt really, really bad because of that, because guys like Tex and Jesus, Ivan, Dirk, Al in Dallas, Jeffrey in Dallas, some of the guys that aren't with us anymore, that not that they died, but just, quit or moved on to other opportunities, that also played a role in our success over the last 4 years. You would hope that, they would be rewarded, and it's really disappointing to me that we don't fit, what they're looking for that. And then on another note, again, I feel like we're just preferencing everything we say with this, but not to talk about other places. A lot of places weren't even open. A lot of places just shut down with the pandemic. And Wesley said the Goldies thing, they were talking about cooking 4 briskets a day. And you can't, not talking about them, but everything that we did to just stay in business.
I know.
I mean, I talked about this on the podcast and maybe some other places, but we were losing about 20 grand a week to keep everyone employed and not furlough anybody when the pandemic started. We also closed all of our stores before someone told us to, or before the government said, because we literally felt like we don't understand what the hell's going on, and this is going to put our team members at risk. Mm-hmm. So let's just shut down. That's not an easy decision to make. We had almost 20 grand in meat inventory in the walk-in at River that I just was like, put on Twitter, hey, we're doing a freaking meat sale. The employee T-shirts, everything else. We get back to business, open 50% occupancy, with mask, with everything else, with people getting sick. Employees, like, people are berating them for mask, and every day, almost every day, fighting about not wanting to wear a mask, not whatever. I've told the story about, somebody flipping off one of our sweet 18-year-old cashiers, and then blaming us for throwing him out of the restaurant. That's great. Whatever episode that's on is worth listening to. We opened Dallas, we signed a lease, and then a pandemic hit. Hard to see that, but we opened there with 50% occupancy. Struggled at the start just because, of everything. And I have something I want to say about that I'll get back to. But to finish this point, our team members, and it's not like, I don't know. I think a lot of people literally risk their lives to stay in business in the pandemic, and people were getting COVID, everything was just insane. But a lot of people were like, this is what I do. I work in restaurants, and if I manage, or I'm a dishwasher, and this is how I provide for my family. And it was really, really difficult. And I guess my point is, in relation to this list, none of that mattered.
Yeah.
Like, no one gives a shit. And
I think last week we talked about saying like it means if you make that list, it's like you're validated or whatever. And that's what I think is hurtful, is because it's kind of like, not everybody can be on a list that's only 50.
There's a million barbecue
deep,
places now.
But it's just like, it stings, especially after this year. It's like, you don't feel validated, I guess, after everything that you just mentioned and that other joints have gone through, Stephen Joseph at Riverport.
Jesus, that'll make me cry.
Like all these different things that people had to go through. And then let's just like ch*erry on top, you didn't make this list and you're not the cool kid anymore. And
again, it's like that's their thing. Like none of that matters. None of the, it does, like so many of the places were either close. I mean, Franklin's still like not doing dine-in. They're just to go. That doesn't matter.
On Instagram, they're going to open for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, great. So, it's hard to compare, which I think is the thing. There's just not really a like fair way, I think, to compare a place like Joseph's in Riverport to a Goldie's or to a Hutchins or
make the list. Like it's going to be detrimental because in the magazine they do passports, and like it's like if you go to every joint you get a sticker, and we talked about it last time, but you get like a Yeti or whatever it is at the end if you go to all 50. And like if you are one of these places in like Far East Texas or wherever that didn't make the list but was on the list prior, and you don't have those people coming through just to get a sticker, and spending money at your place, then that's going to be really hard for those places and not good for them at all.
And, counterpoint, Texas Monthly doesn't owe anyone anything. And that's the thing, too, that I have to remember is like, this is great, and it's always been great for barbecue and Texas barbecue, the additional like promotion and advertising that this list provides for people. But, like to your point, like the negative side of it is it sucks. And we said that on the last podcast that a lot of places, I mean, there's at least 5 places that I know of that like probably should have closed in the last year that were losing money just waiting, praying to be on top 50. Some of them made it, some of them didn't. And maybe now the places that made it, will probably survive another year or so. The places that don't, or, it's been really, really, really tough the last year and a half. And I think a lot of places were just kind of scraping by, hoping, okay, then we'll get this. And then when you don't, then it's going to really affect them. But that goes back to the point where, at some point in the pandemic, I was talking to Daniel about this. And our sales were down at one point in 2020 compared to 2019, which was a good year. Our sales were down 80%, a little over 80%.
Yeah.
80% of your business is gone. And we still have the same overhead. No one gave us $1 on rent. Thank you, landlords, to help us out. Same overhead of payroll and everything else because we didn't want to let anybody go. We actually hired more people, to help out with different areas. And I guess my point was then when I was talking to Daniel, he was talking to somebody who said their sales were about the same as last year. And I go, because they cook 3 briskets. Because it's not the same thing. It's not a restaurant. It's not. Yeah, of course, because every day they serve 40 people. Mm-hmm. Now they just serve 40 people to go. And so I guess, and I want to bring this up because I can tell you the moment I knew we weren't going to make the top 50 list was I had done an article with Sarah Blaskovich for the opening of Mockingbird, the Dallas opening. I also want to say shout out
I
to
love
Sarah.
her. I love her a lot.
She's great. Restaurant. I don't know if you'd say critic because she more just like writes story. I don't.
Well, she tells the truth.
Yeah, but she's not. I mean, she just I think writes a lot about restaurants in Dallas and Fort Worth, and is
It's like a food writer.
she's very nice.
Yeah.
Also, which is rare
Beautiful
for those
babies
people.
too.
But she wrote a really nice article. Yeah, kind of shocked that we weren't in it along with Pecan Lodge and others recently, and wrote that on Twitter, and that meant a lot to me. And I need to message her. I just haven't yet. But anyway, we did an article, and maybe this is a little into like how the sausage is made, and I don't want to like whatever. But a lot of times with PR and marketing stuff, you have an agenda. There's a point that I'm trying to convey because I feel like this is important. And any kind of PR marketing, whatever would tell you the same thing. And so a lot of times when we have these stories and, people talk to us about something, I'm trying to push a certain thing. I'm just setting it up purely to say, I was very concerned with us opening in Dallas in the middle of a global pandemic where no one knew what the hell was going on. No one knew if they were going to die the next day. This was before the vaccines were a thing. I don't even think you could get a vaccine really
not yet.
At this point. And
This was a year ago, by the way, October. We've been open a year in Dallas.
yeah,
Crazy. So yeah.
well, this was before then though, because we opened before then.
It was pre-vaccine.
Yes, that's my point. People wearing masks. It was 50% occupancy in Dallas. We did our soft opening, which was super great. The demand was crazy. It was awesome. We had lines out the door, down the building, and I felt really worried because that was great and everything was awesome, but you're just waiting for somebody to say something. You're waiting to be labeled as the unsafe restaurant,
Right.
the place that doesn't care.
Constantly
That's,
policing it.
yeah, I mean, we're telling people stay 6 feet apart. No one gives a shit. No. It's just
They're like, I want to
packed
be in the building.
like sardines and, everything. So, again, the moment that the point of this, the moment that I knew there was no chance was in that article, I said basically like, I don't want to have lines. Like that's one of our things, right? We want to be as inclusive and as accessible of a restaurant as possible. Part of our ethos of being a part of the community and yada, yada, yada. You've heard me preach about that. Open 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now I want you to be able to come and enjoy the best barbecue in town. If you have a 30-minute lunch break, if you have, want to get a meal at 9:00 at night, if you have a family like us and your child likes to scream and bother other patrons, like it's, I want everyone to be able to come. And I was really, really concerned with us opening and having long lines and all that. So I said basically in the thing, like, that's not our goal. We don't want to be the place with super long lines. We want to serve you the best food possible, barbecue, burgers, whatever it is that you like on our menu. But I want to do it as quickly as possible with as best good of service and hospitality as I can. Again, really kind of hammering we don't want to have lines because I was worried about people, being worried about that and not coming to our restaurant,
Right.
which we needed to desperately make money as, again, we were losing an insane amount of money. I didn't say, that came out. Daniel responded on Twitter to me with some bullshit about lines. And I guess I think he thought that I was trying to dog other places that like had lines, and not understanding that in the middle of a global pandemic where people are dying at an insane rate, that the idea that I would say that, hey, maybe we don't want to, we're trying to
Right.
we're not that place. If that's what you think barbecue places are, general public, we're not that. We're
Spend your money.
And don't worry about dying.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
It's a big deal.
we kind of went back and forth on Twitter about it, and then he posted a photo of a line from our food truck and something to the effect of, well, this guy loved lines or wasn't, and it was something like this guy talking about me loved lines and wouldn't, doesn't feel the same way or something. And in that moment, I really, in my mind, go, oh, he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
You don't understand what we're going through and what I'm trying to do here by saying this in the article. It's just that a barbecue place isn't a good place unless it's
3-hour
exclusive, unless it's a long line, and kind of inferring that we don't have those lines, or we don't want those lines, so then we're not what we used to be. And that really bothered me as someone who, not to mention just that I considered him a friend and, everything. And because we're friends doesn't mean we should make top 50. Because we're friends means you could have told me 2-3 weeks ago when I saw you and hung out for 2 hours and drank and had a great time that maybe it didn't come to mind. Hey, by the way, you guys aren't in it. I've known him for a long time, and that hurts me deeply. And then we'll see him tonight, so I'm sure he'll have some bullshit excuse for why he didn't feel like saying anything. But again, this is getting raw. But I felt in that moment not good. And then the other thing was when we had him on the podcast and he said, we're not special anymore.
I'll never forget that. We were talking about meat prices and how people are charging. We're charging in Fort Worth at the time like $30 grand. That's what we should charge. $30 for a pound of brisket, and I don't think we had upped our prices yet, even though meat was starting to go up, and we were like, oh, we really don't want to do that, but it's looking like we're gonna have to. And I said, I can't believe there's a place in town doing like $29 a pound, and I said, man, if we did that, people would just blow us up on social and just like really complain and all this stuff. And he said, well, that's just because you're not special anymore.
Well, he said that on the podcast. That was, I think, another conversation. But yeah, we got the message loud and clear. So I think, and I'll just say it too, like, so then I'm mad, I'm mad at him because we did a catering and hung out. And in that catering, he said, like, the list is already done. And so it's like, you the same thing for, I don't want to name people, but I was texting with other places that didn't get in, and, there's some excuse or whatever, but, I don't know. I would have appreciated just, hey, by the way.
Yeah, before I got off Facebook, I saw another joint said that he had known like 2 weeks ago that he wasn't.
That would have been nice.
And I was like, well, that would have been cool, because we were like, our hopes were really high for a number of reasons, and it would have just been nice to not.
And then, too, I'll just say it because fuck it, but like... I really, like, seriously didn't think we would get in because of the line thing and because of all that, and just, like, we're growing, and that, I think, is the perception from him and whatever, who else is involved with that, of, like, you get to 3 locations,
yeah, you're
and
doing
you're big,
fine.
and it's different, and it's not this, like, what they're trying to do, and that's fine. And so I really, like, had kind of, I think, made peace with it. Last Tuesday, we get a last-minute call, email, hey, Texas Monthly, we want to film with you guys. Okay.
Like, oh, awesome. This is awesome. Drop everything and make it happen.
So let's just cancel an entire day of meetings. Let's get a babysitter last minute because we're like, well, shit, if they want to film, this is probably important. And the film crew couldn't have been nicer.
No,
they were
they're great.
I don't want to say anything negative about them because they were awesome. But I really hope that footage doesn't go anywhere. Like at this point, I'm
we
really
probably
upset.
Need to ask that it doesn't. Then.
Well, it's just that was a week, not even like 6 days before the list comes out. And then we do this whole thing and they're like, what does Texas Monthly mean to you? And, all this. And we're talking and we're there for hours filming. And then we leave and we're like, this is really good.
This is so awesome.
This is good news. Like, this is great. We filmed with them. This is awesome. It's going to go on their, internet, whatever thing they said, all this. Just to get a kick in the nuts Monday and like, what the fuck was that for? What was the point of that?
It's because I don't know, but I think it's because we were on the top 50.
From the last one?
From the last one. And they did that like traveling festival restaurant week thing. And
right.
They were like, we'll feature you. But they,
and other places
on
didn't
the
get
filming
in,
thing, they were like, so what do you guys think about Panther City? And like, so we were like, oh, it must be like us in Panther City. Like, this is awesome.
Hilarious.
They didn't mention anybody else. This is so cool. And then nada.
So,
And a fact check email that was about River.
Right.
So we were like, they must just be picking like one location. They picked River.
Which they always do a fact check thing. That's kind of
if
like
they're
last
writing
time
about you, yeah.
We knew that.
So then we were
got
like,
in.
oh, but then we just got an honorable mention.
Which is just like a participation trophy, I guess.
Pink ribbon
like, I don't know.
Instead of a blue one.
So to just wrap this up, because of course we were like, I don't know how long we want to freaking talk about this, and then here it is, 45 minutes in. I'm disappointed. I'm mad for the reasons that I described, because I feel like I feel like we've always tried to be different, and my thing and what I've said for a million times is I want to cook barbecue the level of Franklin, the level of Pecan Lodge, the Louis Miller's, La Barbecue. Those guys that I learned from, that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I want to do that, but I want to have the hospitality. I want to have the service. I want to have the restaurants of places that are inclusive, that are accessible, that are open 7 days a week, to where anyone can come in. You don't have to take a vacation day to stand in line for 3 hours to get food. That's the hard part for us. That's always been the hard part. We're cooking 3 or 4 cooks of ribs every day, bacon burn-in, sausage, all of that. It's not like we cook one thing in the morning and then we just sell out. Again, going into the amount of hard work that the smokehouse guys, put in and all that, just for us to have really good barbecue at 7, 8 o'clock at night. That's difficult. And not a lot of places have that same agenda and that same mindset. I'd say Style Switch, they're the same way, right? They're open for dinner and, 6 or 7 days a week. There's a few that have tried. They also got shafted. So, but I guess my point is like, I feel like we've always been on that outer edge of like, I want to be a part of this thing and included in this because I think that's important. But also we want to like be a successful restaurant.
Right.
And we want to like provide, just all of those other things for our customers, not to mention like, being successful, all that. Like you get into like with a restaurant that's open 2 or 3 days a week, how does someone work there? How do you get a full-time 40 hours out of that for your staff members? We're able to provide insurance, everything, all the other stuff that we do. It's like, it's more than just an ego thing and selling out and blah, blah, blah. What I think, and I'm speaking for both of us, I think what we feel about truly great restaurants are all of those other things combined.
Correct.
And that's what we want to be. And the thing that bums me out is Texas Monthly being like, but you can't be this too.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just nice to have clarity from that. But it's like, if this is the moment where we're like, okay, well, we're different and maybe we're not a part of that, but we're not, and we've said this before, and like to our employees and to our team members of like, we're not cooking for Texas Monthly. You know, as much as we want to be a part of that, we're not cooking for Daniel. We're not cooking for whatever. Our goal is to provide great, incredible restaurants with excellent food, passionate, gracious hospitality, right? So that's the goal. And the thing that was weird from this week is, should that be our goal? Is that what matters? All that. And I think it's going to take some time, but I feel a little bit of clarity. I mean, I've been praying a lot, which I think has helped, but a little bit of clarity of like, you know what, we're different and we have our own sort of agenda and goal and what we think's important, and that's not a bad thing just because we didn't get a part of this. And so,
You know what? It's kind of like when you went to Aaron and he was like, come stage with me, and like you cooked there for a week or whatever, and then at the end he was like, I'm not going to hire you, and you were like devastated. And you called me from our 99 two-door Honda Civic and you were like, he's not going to hire me, and he said like I should just try and do my own thing or whatever, and you were like so hurt and just like, you know, lost in a desert of like confusion. And I was like, I think this is a good thing. I think this is the kick in the ass that you and I needed to like figure out a food truck or whatever we wanted to do, but like focus on us. And then the next day you found our food truck for lease on Craigslist.
yeah.
And it's kind of maybe that this is that for us, but we're just larger and stronger now. And this is like kind of like the last thing we needed to be like, you know what? We really are different and we really are striving to serve the best we can and to be, you know, the Heim barbecue that we feel like we should be, and to not be put into a bubble or a mold that is set by someone else. And Heim has we really haven't been that in a long time. And, you know, we probably would have been off the list a lot earlier if it wasn't every 4 years. But maybe this is it. Maybe this is like the final, like, okay, now it's like we're really going to spread our wings and figure out who we really are. And
Well, what's the name of our restaurant group?
Providence Restaurant Group. That's on everybody's checks that they receive.
So Providence is the idea that everything, good or bad, happens for a reason, and it's all planned by God.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get religious, because I don't want to be the guy that's like salt, pepper, and prayer and whatever, you know, like shit. But with that, our faith means a lot to us, and I think I didn't really even think about it that way, and I've never really told that story. And you know, it's like we were cooked a lot with the La Barbecue folks and John Lewis, who used to work at Franklin.
Yeah.
And was kind of a mentor to me, and I really appreciated and learned a lot from cooking with him. And then we were going to open a restaurant in Charleston with him. And I don't know, like, I mean, whatever, I'm just in the mood to just fucking, you know, say it all. But it's like, we were going to get an apartment together with John and open a food truck, because we had gone and done this event with the Brownwater Society and loved Charleston. So we had told our family, we're moving to Charleston. We're going. This is my dream, to be a barbecue cook and open a place. And it fell apart in a just a
Providence.
beautiful way, which, was really, there's a lot more to that story. But so anyway, we were like, well, we're not doing that. I went, and one of our Patreon members, Evan Leroy, went and cooked with Evan because they needed somebody at Friedman's. He decided not to hire me, which was, great in hindsight, but, very
He needed
upsetting.
somebody like the next day, and we lived in Fort Worth.
Annoying at the time. But then while I was there, we met Aaron and drank for like 6 hours and chatted about barbecue and everything. And standing in the parking lot of Contigo, I still remember like it was yesterday. He was like, if you're going to come work someplace in town, why don't you work for me? And I said this before. This was like, Troy Aikman being like, hey, do you want to like come play football for
Like
the
handing you
Cowboys?
the ball.
And you're like, yeah, man, awesome. And also at this point, we're destitute. Like we're like scraping by every penny. We're renting cars because our car cannot make the trip to Austin to cook for free for John Lewis and La Barbecue and everything else. I mean, we drove to Charleston, Houston, wherever, just to learn. And this was the same, kind of thing. And then I was, at Franklin for a few days and learned a lot, and that was great. And then at the end, the last conversation we had was, him saying that like he was like, if you work here, you're just going to cook ribs for 5 years and it's not going to be the same thing. And he, this is going to make me emotional, but anyway, he said, I think you should do your own thing in Fort Worth and just go for it. And they had a similar story, him and Stacy, where they just opened a food truck, and that was hugely inspirational for me. Again, going back to me following Daniel Vaughn's blog before he was anything and had this random barbecue blog where he went to Franklin, and seeing that first post that he put about Franklin with them in a food truck. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. That must have been, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, maybe longer. So Aaron's always been, important in my life. And that was, I think, the last like kick in the ass where I was devastated.
Yeah.
I was like, no, but I want to cook ribs for 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
I'll do it for free. I told him that for years, that I'll come work for free, just because I wanted to learn. And that was how much I was cared about barbecue and was passionate. And I was like, this guy is the guy that, is innovating and doing all this stuff. And literally, we found the food truck for lease. I was looking up propane tanks to buy another, because we had done our meat club pop-ups, but it wasn't like really well thought out or anything. We just knew we might need another smoker, and found the food truck for lease that was at Republic Bar that Panther City went into after us, and the rest was history. Your parents bought a trailer for us because we couldn't even afford a trailer. We had a smoker that I got for free from my uncle. Didn't have temp gauges or anything else, and that's how it started. And then to go from that in 2015 to where we're at now is pretty remarkable. And I think
like the common thread, and that's what's like hard, and that's what I'm sure like the deciding gods of the list are like, Heim's fine, like whatever, but it's like it's still us. Like we're the same, and that's what's difficult is like, you see like the 3 joints or the 3 restaurants, and you're like, oh, they got this or whatever, but it's still like a passion and a love for barbecue. And like now that passion and love has developed into like keeping staff on the clock and like those type of things. But
well, this last year especially. I mean, that's the thing that bugs
it's
me
us.
too.
I mean, it's literally us. We're the Heims. We are Heim Barbecue, and that's
That's the thing that bugs me is and like Franklin posted on Instagram today And they were like, I forget what it was, but it was like we were number 1 8 years ago, and then we were number 2 4 years ago, and then now we're number 7, and like nothing has changed. But I guess the rest of the barbecue world has improved and all that. And it felt a little tongue in cheek, and maybe they didn't mean it that way. But I guess that's my thing too. Is like, I think this is a common thing of like, growth is just bad. And I think that's what like Texas Monthly and Daniel and all those things. It's just that's the thing that people think is growth is bad. You go from a food truck to a brick and mortar.
Then your food can't
is it going to be the same?
Yeah.
Is it going to be? We were doing myself, and then Rowdy, I guess, when he was sober, was like cooking on a smoker in the rain and the cold and every condition, and on a smoker that didn't have temp gauges, all that crap. There's no way that we didn't improve with Magnolia. We designed the whole smokehouse, the restaurant, to be more consistent, to eliminate a lot of those variables. And I guess the point of why I brought up Franklin in their posts, all of the people that work for us, the people that have been with us since day one, the guys in the smokehouse that have been there for the last couple of years, they just don't get any better. Like, they're not improving from day to day. Like,
I think
you have to think that if you have a brain, that we're constantly trying to get better and improve. We have people that work their ass off to do that.
I would argue, like, on their side, they're saying, if it's not me cashiering and you cutting brisket and putting logs on the fire, then it's not as good as it used to be.
Well, I think that's a part of it. I still remember
But
Lanny.
in our eyes, though, we're empowering these people to like make money. They're paying for cars. They're like, we're creating a thing so other people can have good things in life too. And that isn't like, that's not good enough either.
That doesn't matter.
No.
I still remember Lanny, our friend Little Lanny, had a restaurant. It was like a fine dining Mexican place, and it was called Lanny's Alto Casino. And he said, "I'll never name a restaurant after me again." And I was like, "What does that mean?" And it was that where he was like, if I wasn't there, then it was like people were pissed. And it was like, it's not good enough, or it's not what it used to be. And he was like, I can't work 100 hours a week. I have kids and a family and all that. And that really struck a nerve with me. And to his point was like, he has incredible chefs. He has great kitchen staff that he trained, that, he promoted
that
to
you feel comfortable
those positions.
leaving in your building. Yeah.
And managers and SOMs and everything else. But again, it's just that idea or whatever of, if he wasn't in the building, then it's not the same. And that's just how it is. And that's part of public perception. And it's, we can't be in all 3 restaurants at the same time every day and everything. I can't cook every brisket that we serve.
Like, we waited to have a baby. Like, we waited to like start our own personal lives because we were establishing our company. And it's, that's just how it is for us.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to like change those things. Like, I'm not going to be like, well, Izzy shouldn't have been here because I should have been making potato salad. Like, there's just no way. And like, that's the thing about like this whole thing is, you could say like, oh, Heim isn't the same because it's not us doing every single aspect of the business, like from cooking to writing a check to whatever it is. But it's like we've grown in so many other ways, and like have started a family. And
I mean, man. We didn't get into that, and I don't want to, but just being pregnant in the middle of a pandemic and opening a 3rd restaurant and everything that we dealt with that, that was very, very tough. And
during those times, that's when we needed to focus on us.
Yeah.
Like, we had to. So.
And I don't even want to get into
that's
that.
a different story, but
Anyway, it wasn't easy. And again, that back to my first point, like, people with restaurants and stuff were doing everything to scrape by and stay in business and keep their staff members employed, and probably having family members that died, and being pregnant in the middle of a pandemic and all this other stuff. So that's the part that it's just a little bit, it just hurts a little bit more, everything that
but it's like, this is how we feel. Every joint that also didn't get on it, that was on it in previous years, or was hoping to get on it, that's how, like, we all have our own stories.
Yeah.
And it's super sad.
I feel bad for Steven. I feel bad for the Rogels. They have always been very nice. And
and Catherine.
Yeah, Style Switch.
She's so great.
Pecan Lodge, I haven't talked to them in a while, but Justin was, I still remember, I wanted to work there forever and they didn't hire me. And Justin, when we opened Magnolia, sent me a Facebook message out of the blue, saying that he was proud of us and that he was really happy that we had opened. And I wasn't really friends with him. I didn't know him that well. That meant a lot to me, and obviously still does. So it is what it is. I think I was devastated. I was very sad. I was very upset. And I feel like we're at the point where, what has made us successful so far has not been looking at what other places are doing, has not been worried about if we're going to get in the Fort Worth Magazine Best Barbecue or we're going to get Texas Monthly. These are our standards, our stripes that we call them, our core values for our staff members, team members, focusing on what we think is important. And I truly believe that no one's going to hold us to a higher standard than ourselves.
Yeah.
And as long as we keep doing what we think is important and focusing on those things, and then doing the right thing, treating people the way that they should be treated, and all of the other things that go into a business. I mean, I was talking about, I did a charity golf thing 30 minutes after finding out the list, and I was just, played like shit for the most part because I was just thinking about that all day. 6 figures that we've provided in charity, if more, to local charities and stuff. I mean, that's what's important to me, is being a restaurant where we can do those things, be a part of our community, Fort Worth, now Dallas, now soon to be Burleson, which I can't wait to get Burleson open. Those are the things that are important, providing opportunities for our team members to grow, to buy houses, to buy cars, to go to college, all that stuff. We can't do that if we're a 3-day-a-week place that cooks 4 briskets that's open for 2 or 3 hours. And
I
think I'm okay with that.
No, I mean, seriously, we wouldn't feel good doing that.
Yeah.
We are not, it's weird because when you think about, like, gosh, our brains 7 years ago trying to do this stuff would have, like, killed to be in that position, and we were in that position. And when we got into that position with the food truck, the pop-ups and everything, it's like, this isn't us. Yeah. We've got to keep, like, we felt it. It was a tug on our hearts, and we just knew, like, we got to blaze and we have to keep going and, like, be the trailblazers that we feel that we are. And I feel like that's who we are. I mean, truthfully, we wouldn't feel comfortable doing the 4 briskets or whatever a week.
And that's just my internal struggle of ego and wanting to be considered, one of the best. And I feel like we've never gotten what we probably deserve, from just that type of stuff. But that's probably for the best. There's a verse in James that says, humble yourselves before the Lord and he will lift you up. And that was something that was a big deal to me growing up, and something that I always tried to be like. I don't want to be the beating your chest, we're about to shock the world barbecue place. And maybe that's part of why we don't get, a lot of the acclaim. We don't have a PR company. We don't have anything like that.
But we're true to who we are.
Yeah, and you know, I'll say it because we're just all in our fields anyway. But that the moment that changed for me, and I've talked about it, was my grandfather, who I loved, who was like a father to me, was dying on his deathbed. And while I sat next to him, I got a message from a customer for the food truck that said something to the effect of, "You guys suck. We've come to the food truck. I've come to the food truck 3 times," which I don't really believe that. I've come to the food truck 3 times. Every single time you've been sold out, or, you know, you've been out of whatever. And today was the last straw. I'm never coming back to you. I'm going to go to this place in town because I know that they're open for lunch and dinner and they always have food. And mind you, we took off the day to, you know, grieve my dying grandfather. So in that moment, I talked about this on one of the podcasts. I want to be clear and say, fuck that guy. Like, first of all, like, that's not why. But I think that was the thing that bugged me about the food truck and about our success early. Was it was like we felt like we had created exactly what we wanted. We were serving great barbecue. We were doing everything we wanted. And it was so exclusive. It was so limited. We literally were cooking as much as we could. I would have begged anyone, again, like Daniel and the Lion thing, I would have begged someone to open a restaurant, to have another smoker, to cook more, to open, to have more staff. It wasn't by design. We didn't do it on purpose, you know. And the thing about that, and then when we went to Magnolia and then now with the other restaurants, was I don't want to be what that guy thinks we are, of this is just a hipster whatever, like they cook 4 briskets a day and then it's whatever, it's exclusive, I can't get in, and I'm not a part of that and whatever. And that still to this day was kind of the final thing of like, you know what, we can do great barbecue and great service, but also not be like what this guy thinks, and be a place where everyone can come. You don't have to stand in line forever, God forbid. You can get a cocktail, you can get a drink, you know, all that stuff, all of the other things that we do to try to create a great atmosphere. And that was a big deal to me. And again, to the Texas Monthly, that's not what they look for or what they care about. And maybe we just have to be okay with that. You know, we are different. Yeah. And we've always been different, even back from when we opened Magnolia.
I guess that's what I was trying to say earlier about like the desires of our hearts has not changed since the food truck. Like, we've always wanted to be a part of that list. Right. And just because we've grown doesn't mean we don't want to be a part of that list now. And so now it's like, now we're looking inward and like having to be like, it's okay that we've grown and changed. And to my point at the very beginning when we started, like, we shouldn't feel like upset that we have had success to be excluded from that list, you know?
Yeah, it just doesn't make it easier.
Because again, it's like we wore orange on the day we should have worn pink or something. Like, you're out. Like, you can't sit with us.
Yeah, I mean, I just got another text from a good friend.
Dang, that's
talking
long.
About the list that, again, I really appreciate it if you reached out to us.
A couple people reach out. That was really meaningful, when really I was like, I don't know. Just hurts, and it's kind of cool to see people like acknowledge, like, even the people that did make the list that reached out and were surprised, like they took time out of their like enjoyment and, you know, excitement of the day and said, you know, I'm really sorry and can't even believe it.
A lot of funny memes on Twitter. A lot of people.
Twitter is funny. Twitter's so like such like a cesspool sometimes, but it's really awesome. Like,
it's a terrible place.
Tagging everybody, like tagging Texas Monthly and stuff for us, and
Well,
Like
one guy
being
that
like, are you guys
yeah.
crazy? Like,
One guy that comments a lot was like welfare check or something, and that was when I was like, all right, well, I should just, I get back on. And I haven't posted anything, but I liked a lot of the tweets of people supporting us, and I
it's kind of nice to take a break regardless.
appreciate that. Ben Rogers from Ben and Skin shouted us out on his radio show too. That was really meant a lot to me. He's
A couple of
been
news people too, I think.
yeah, a bunch of them. And then another funny thing, like
that's
probably
good.
100 tweets of people being like, what the hell, Heim's not on and all this stuff. And then one person, literally one that I saw was some random troll account, it looks like, and they were like, Heim sucks. And then Daniel responded to that one that they tagged him in of like, there's still a good place or something. No, I know. It's just funny. Like there's 100 tweets about, people saying how good we are, and you don't write back to that. But
also, I mean, he's on a high from posting this list that he spent a lot of time doing.
Yeah, and a lot of effort. And, it's great. It'll be really interesting to see him tonight. And I don't know if I'm ready for that, but
I know. I almost was like, I'm not going to go, but I'm not. I've never not completed a task, and this client is actually a really great client of ours, and she's honestly a friend now. And I'm not going to not be there for
I didn't want to miss it for them just because he'll be there, and the Panther City guys will be there.
Yeah.
It's Terry Black, so I want to say congrats to them
Slowbone.
and everything. Slowbone, they got on. It's pretty cool. I think it's a great thing for barbecue. I'm very happy for the places. It'll be interesting to see like the Goldies and those places that then, it's like Texas Monthly threw a hand grenade in their lap and you're like, okay, here you go. And whether or not you're ready for success, you're about to get it. And so how you manage that the next year is going to be interesting and a challenge for a lot of places. And the places that didn't make it, that are struggling, I feel really terrible for, and some of them are our friends.
Also, on that note, like, just because a place didn't make the list, keep supporting them, because now is when they're going to need it more than ever. Those smaller joints that maybe like previously were on the list that didn't make it now, and were, just kind of thinking of the list coming out as like a finish line or something, like we, after this pandemic and everything, and like, praying to be on it, and then maybe weren't lucky enough to have made it. Keep supporting them because they're going to need it.
Yeah. I don't know. We could bookmark this, but I think 6 places closed since the last list, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 20.
I know. I was
from
thinking
the next
that
one.
too.
I mean, it's just.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. But the climate we're in and everything. I mean, the amount of money that it costs for meat right now and all that crap.
I mean, I did see a tweet from someone that made it that was like, "I'm just glad we're all still here" or something. And it's like that's the honest truth right there.
Yeah,
none of us could be here after this year. And the crazy thing is, thousands of restaurants have closed.
Yeah,
it's nuts. Well.
Did we exhaust the topic?
Well, I was going to say, this was just a time for us to vent and to get it off of our chest. Next podcast will be more open and airy and fun, and we'll try to be back to our normal self with Brittany updates and Bravo updates and football, whatever. But yeah, it's good for us. This is, like we said last time too, almost like a therapy session for us just to talk it out. Because honestly, we've been so hurt by everything that we really haven't even discussed it much, because it's like, we not only work together, but then we also live together. It's just, 24/7 of that like open wound getting salt poured into it if we just keep talking about it. So that's that, man.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll be back to our regular uplifting Heim time podcasts with minimal curse words next time.
Yeah, maybe. Thanks for...
Sorry I cried this whole time. That's,
I mean, it happens.
Just got my feels.
Yeah, thanks for listening. I mean, one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast, I had people reach out to me to be like, how do you feel about, like media? And I'm like, I'm not saying a fucking word. Like, this is an avenue where we can share our feelings and how we are, and I can explain how I feel much better on an hour and a half podcast than in one stupid clip that's going to get thrown into a magazine or online article that's no one can read anyway because it's not.
You got to pay
You don't
$1.99.
subscribe. So I
That's true,
appreciate the people who care about us and care about our business and support this podcast. And those of you that just are here for the jokes and the goofs, we'll be back to that.
You guys must have been cracking
next
up this episode.
So anyway,
This is real Heim time.
This is as Heim time as it gets, I guess.
I love you, babe.
I
We
love
got
you.
it.
I know it's just it is what it is, and
We're all just people, man, just trying to get by.
at the end of the day, it's all the hard work and everything, we put into it, and I think that's evident, of how we feel now, that you're never going to be comfortable with not being included in something like that, and that's fine, but we have bigger goals and bigger plans, and the things that we find important and what we care about as a business, as personally, as people, as bosses who have 160 families that depend on us making the right decisions and doing the right things. That's a heavy burden to bear at times,
no joke.
and especially the last year, and especially with this list and all of that crap. So this is it, about as real as we can get, I think. So thanks for listening, and hopefully more jokes next time. So.
More jokes, less tears.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all. Thanks.
We're down.